Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 9 2020 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, after a phenomenal straight-up week and bounce back in Week 8, going 10-4, this week was more like 2 weeks ago, where I believe I ended up in the same exact scenario with 14 games and identical records, both against the spread and straight up. So this week so far against the spread and straight up, I am 7-6 in both categories, which equals to 53.8%. And now overall for the year, I am 68-49-1 against the spread, and straight up I am now 79-38-1 straight up. So that equals to about 58% and 67.4% respectively. So definitely going in the wrong direction and not feeling good about it, but it's still one of my better starts and definitely some of my highest numbers, even through the up and down numbers through the last 3 weeks. So I'm definitely still in a good mood and a good direction for overall my year. But what a crazy week in the league it has been for Week 8. In all the games that were pretty much lost, I think 3 of them, I don't think the majority of people thought that the 1-5 Vikings would go to Green Bay and win that game. They were 7-point favorites. They ended up winning by 6. Dalvin Cook became third player in NFL history to have 200 scrimmage yards and 3 rushing and 1 receiving touchdown. And that game was also just phenomenal because I don't think the ball really didn't move that much. Both teams just basically drained the clock out with their drives. And Rodgers only had the ball, I believe, 3 or 4 total possessions. He was able to get 3 touchdowns, and Devontae Adams had 59 yards and 3 TDs, which was incredible, but that was just stunning in that way. For the Rams and the Dolphins, that was a weird game where it kind of felt like that weird Miami magic that happens in Miami where it's like every time a team goes down there, there's always that one game a year that will surprise people. And I think yesterday's game for the Rams and Dolphins was it. I thought Tua played. Like, he didn't do anything phenomenal, great, or even really good. He was just there. He only threw for 90 yards. He did throw that one touchdown to Devontae Parker on the blitz, which was impressive. But the story of the game was just Jared Goff and that Rams offense just folded, and it was bad. Johnny Hecker, after having 5 punts inside the 20 and being the special teams player of the week, he kicks that one ball to Jerry Grant, who runs it back 88 yards for a touchdown. And basically, that was all but shouting, combined with the Van Ginkel 76-yard fumble return touchdown. That was all the Dolphins needed to win this game. And I think the Dolphins, they have quietly been on a nice run over their last 4 games, they beat Jacksonville pretty well. They beat San Francisco. They beat the Jets by 24, and they just beat the Rams, a quality team that just ended up beating the Bears in an impressive way, and the Dolphins basically do the same thing to them. So really impressive showing by Miami. Nobody expected the Titans, or I'll put it this way: I expected the Bengals to be close. I never thought the Bengals were going to win the game, and it was just a phenomenal game by Joe Burrow. 2 touchdowns. He was down 4 starting offensive linemen and his starting running back Joe Mixon. And Ryan Tannehill had his worst game of the year. He threw that 1 interception quickly to Jesse Bates. I do feel bad though for the Titans. They did get robbed off a bad unnecessary roughness call that wasn't called on Adam Humphries, who had to leave the game due to concussion. But the Bengals and Titans, this is what I said last week, and it pretty much came true, except the inverse happened where the Bengals actually played like Titans and won the game at the end. And the Titans ended up just losing, not very well, even though Derrick Henry did have 112 yards rushing. And then the other game, nobody would have ever thought that. See, I talked about the Rams, I talked about the Bengals, or I talked about the Vikings. And then the other game, the Chargers and Broncos, that was nuts. The Chargers are the first team in NFL history to blow 4 straight games with 14-point or more leads. The Broncos were down, I believe, 21 with 7 minutes to go, and 4 score, and 7 minutes later, the Chargers go on to deliver their Pettysburg address and choke another massive game away. And it's just unbelievable how this Charger team, with all this talent, and Justin Herbert, who played pretty good, he threw a couple bad interceptions, but he's played phenomenal for them. that they keep losing these games. And for the Broncos, that's a win that they should keep in their bank for the rest of the year. That may save Vic's job. Seriously. But, for all the losses through the 6 losses, the only one that I could probably accept was Carolina and Atlanta. That was a close game, and just Teddy left the game early, and the Falcons really could just drive the ball, and they closed the game, which was surprising. But that was just kind of how weird the week was. I got the Pats game right. I got the Steeler game right. So, all the Raven fans that might have been upset or watched, this is what logic tells you, that the Steelers were better. Lamar had 4 turnovers, played horribly. And even though we ran for 265 yards, we were up 10. It didn't matter. Lamar was just, not, he can't step up to the moment. And if you look at the playoffs and the games against Kansas City and Pittsburgh, the man has only won 1 game out of those scenarios. He's 0-3 against Kansas City, 0-2 against 0-2 in the playoffs, and he's 1-1 against. He's 2-1 against the Steelers. But when Big Ben played, he lost his first game, and it wasn't close. And the other game I'm happy about, the Raiders game. Kudos to Derek Carr and the Raiders for getting that victory in that rainstorm, and for Baker and that offense. I knew the conditions were horrible, but you just can't have 6 points, even though there were a lot of close calls on both sides with the Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, and Jarvis Landry touchdowns. And I also just felt like the Browns' defense could not get anything, and Josh Jacobs did a very nice job running the football. But I think the Browns are in trouble, or for their overall hopes. I do think the Browns are going to be above 500. Stefanski's done a good job, but I just don't have confidence in the Browns. If anybody thinks that they can contend in a bigger game against the Chiefs or the Broncos or even Indy again, I don't know if they can do that, especially with Odell Beckham out now for the year with the ACL injury. And before I get into my picks, the buys for this week are the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you have Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, A.J. Green, Giovanni Bernard, the Browns defense, Cody Parkey, Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, the Rams defense, Jared Goff, Robert Woods, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, the Eagles defense, Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Jake Elliott. If you have any of those players on your fantasy teams, bench them because they will not be playing this weekend due to the bye. All right, so time for my picks for this week's games. So on Thursday, when the 5-2 Green Bay Packers go to the 4-4 San Francisco 49ers, the Green Bay Packers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay here, -2.5, and Green Bay straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 3-4 Denver Broncos go to the 2-6 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 4-point favorites in this game. I like Atlanta here to win straight up, but give me the Denver Broncos +4. Then the next game, when the 6-1 Seattle Seahawks go to the 6-2 Buffalo Bills, the Seattle Seahawks are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Seattle here -2.5, and Seattle straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-3 Chicago Bears go to the 5-2 Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Titans are 6-point favorites in this game. I like the Tennessee Titans here to win straight up, but give me the Chicago Bears +6. Then the next game, when the 5-2 Baltimore Ravens go to the 5-2 Indianapolis Colts, the Indianapolis Colts are 3-point underdogs in this game. I like an upset here. So, again, sorry, Ravens fans, got to keep going with the logic. Give me the Indianapolis Colts here +3 and the Indianapolis Colts straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-5 Carolina Panthers go to the 7-1 Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs are 12-point favorites in this game. I like Kansas City here to win straight up, but give me Carolina +12. Then the next game, when the 3-4 Detroit Lions go to the 2-5 Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings are 4-point favorites in this game. I like an upset here, so give me the Detroit Lions here +4 and the Detroit Lions straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-6 New York Giants go to the 2-5 Washington Football Team, the Washington Football Team are favored by 3.5 points. Give me the Washington Football Team here to win straight up, but give me the New York Giants +3.5. Then the next game, when in the battle of the AFC South basement, when the 1-6 Houston Texans go to the 1-6 Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like Houston here -6.5, and Houston straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-3 Las Vegas Raiders go to the 2-5 Los Angeles Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers are 1.5-point favorites in this game, and one of the most surprising lines of this weekend. Give me the Las Vegas Raiders here in a slight upset all day. Give me the plus 1.5 and the Las Vegas Raiders straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-0 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 2-6 Dallas Cowboys, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 9.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Pittsburgh here, minus 9.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-3 Miami Dolphins go to the 5-2 Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals are 4.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Arizona Cardinals here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins plus 4.5. Then the next game, when the 5-2 New Orleans Saints go to the 6-2 or 5-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 4-point favorites in this game. I like Tampa Bay here minus 4 and Tampa Bay straight up. And finally, in the Monday Night Football game, when the 3-5 New England Patriots, the 2-5 New England Patriots, forgot they had their bye. The 2-5 New England Patriots go to the 0-8 New York Jets. New England Patriots are 7-point favorites in this game. Give me New England here minus 7 and New England straight up. All right, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Green Bay Packers beating the San Francisco 49ers. Look, this game is fairly simple. The reason why you have to go with the Green Bay Packers here is the 49ers, after yesterday's game against the Seahawks, got more decimated by injuries. They already didn't have their top 2 running backs, and then Telvin Coleman left the game with a knee injury. Dante Pettis left the game with another injury, their special teams returner. And then Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle left with foot and ankle injuries. And George Kittle has a minor foot fracture, so he could be done for the rest of the season. And then you have Jimmy Garoppolo dealing with basically his re-aggravated high ankle sprain, which could put him back on IR for another 3 weeks. So essentially, if you have Nick Mullins with the 4th string running back, and Ross Dwelly, and no Debo, this Niners team is just shot pretty much all across the board. They just traded Quan Alexander to New Orleans Saints for Kiko Alonso. And I just think the Niners are just too banged up in this game for the Packers to have to worry about anything. And look, I know the Packers did not play well. Really, nobody else could really be effective. Jamal Williams was okay. But the story was and I think the Niners have been able to run the ball more effectively. But if you're going on JaMychal Hasty and Jerick McKinnon being your 2 primary running backs, that is a massive problem against the Packers team that usually, after they played the Bucs and got pretty embarrassed, they beat the Texans pretty well. And then they lost to this Vikings team in a pretty dominating fashion, in a surprising but dominating fashion. And I feel like the Packers, and also they're going to be motivated from the NFC Championship game from last year. This is a rematch that was supposed to be a really big-time matchup. But these 2 teams are in very different states right now where the Packers are going to want to, get that momentum right back. The Niners are just too banged up in most every facet of their team. And I just think it's going to be a tough rest of the year for the Niners, even with Nick Mullins or C.J. Beathard, whoever gets to start on Thursday. It's going to be a tough rest of the year just because I think even with the backups, I don't think they're going to be able to win that many more games with the banged up team they have left that's out there. Do I think the Niners have a chance to compete? Sure. I feel like, through the season, Saleh and Shanahan have done pretty much the best they could. Look, they started out with injuries in week 1, so they pretty much have known that this team's been banged up and taped together since the beginning. But I just have to take the Packers here. They're irritated. They've played better, and I just trust this defense against a very limited Niners offense and a banged up Niners defense to get this win by at least a score, if not more, in this game. So that's like the Green Bay Packers are minus 2.5, and the Green Bay Packers straight up. The next game, the Atlanta Falcons over the Denver Broncos. This was really tough. Because I looked at this game and I wanted to pick Denver. I wanted to, and I know what the argument here is for anybody out there, is that basically Denver gets to play the NFC version of the team they just played and the Los Angeles Chargers. That is absolutely fair. But the one thing that's been different compared to the Chargers and the Falcons is that the Falcons at least fired Dan Quinn. The Chargers haven't fired Anthony Lynn yet, and I believe, he'll get through the rest of the year. This is his 4th year, so he's got 3 years, so he deserves to go out the rest of the year. But Raheem Morris has done a good job in his 3 games. He held the Vikings to 25. They put up 40. They won. They had the last second Todd Gurley gaff, but they held the Lions to 23. And on Thursday they held the Panthers to 18. And the Atlanta offense has done a good job being able to move the ball. Calvin Ridley is dealing with a mild foot sprain, which is a little significant, but he was day to day, and they don't know if he was going to play or not. And I think that maybe that may not matter. I think Julio should be able to have a great game against this banged up Broncos defense. But also, I just have to trust Atlanta here. And again, maybe that's a big mouthful to have. Trust the Atlanta Falcons to win a football game. But I just have to I have to trust Ryan. I have to trust Gurley. I have to trust the tight end, and I have to just trust this defense, which has played pretty solid over the last 3 weeks with the new coaching staff. Do I think Locke, can Locke put up some yards? Yes. Lindsey played pretty well. He made some nice throws to Jerry Jeudy, who I believe had 70 yards. KJ Hamler made the big touchdown reception at the end. He has Noah Fant and Albert O at tight end, which is not a bad duo together. And the Broncos could definitely win this game. The reason why I took the Broncos on the line to hedge is basically, I feel like, look, Denver could essentially do what they did against the Chargers or the Falcons. So this is one of those literal 50-50 games that even if I really believe that Atlanta, or if I took Denver to win, I would take Denver with the points. And even if you take Atlanta to win, I would take Denver with the points just because of Atlanta's nature over the year of blowing fourth quarter leads and keeping games close. And the Broncos just did this against the Falcons just yesterday. So I think this game is going to be fun. It's going to be between 2 high-powered offenses, though the pressure is on Fangio, not Raheem, in my opinion, because Raheem's done a good job. And Raheem's an interim coach anyway. But give me the Falcons here because I just feel like they've played better and they've been able to close some more games to where I think with Denver, I don't know if they can do it. I don't think if it was Justin Herbert back there because he's played better than Drew Lock, I would probably take Denver to win. I just think Drew Lock, I think Atlanta's going to be more prepared. They're going to be able to run the ball a little bit better. And I just feel like Denver they're going to have a tough time going into that dome and winning this one in a tight one. But give me Denver +4 because Atlanta just for this year is known to be close in 4 quarters, and I'm just giving myself a false safe if I lose straight up. So that's why I have the Atlanta Falcons here straight up with the Denver Broncos +4. The next game, the Seattle Seahawks over the Buffalo Bills. This is one where, to me, the Seahawks had a fantastic response from last week's game. Russell Wilson threw 4 touchdowns. He completed about 70+% of his passes. DK Metcalf led the whole league in receiving yards, 12 receptions for over 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they were just sensational all offensively across the board. That looked like the Russell Wilson MVP that he had been through 5 to 6 weeks this season. And I felt like with the defense, they did a good job early on. Jimmy Garoppolo only threw for 80 yards or 88 yards and a pick. He was 11 of 16. And I was just really impressed with how the Seahawks have been doing. And I feel like going into Buffalo, first of all, Russell Wilson has never lost in Buffalo against Buffalo in his career. He's 2-0, winning the last game in 2016, I believe, 31-25. But then when you look at this game, I feel like with the Bills, and I have to even admit myself here, the Bills have really kind of simmered. Like after beating the Rams, I was really high on them. I thought that this Bills team could be the 3rd best team in the AFC, right below the Ravens and the Chiefs. Now I'm looking at the Bills, and they're falling kind of back in that 2nd tier. They're still a good team, and they're going to probably win the AFC East just about how bad the rest of the division is. But just watching them week after week after week, the Jets game was horrible. They won by 8 points. They only kicked 6 field goals. The Pats game, it took a fumble by Zimmer at the end to win that one. It was also the first time the Bills had beat New England in Buffalo in 8 years, in 9 years since 2011. And I just was not impressed because I just feel like that was just more bad Patriots, and the Patriots really didn't have any offensive weapons. Like this was the Patriots team without Edelman, without N'Keal Harry. Jacoby Myers led the team with 10 targets. You had Damiere Byrd. Damiere Byrd had 4 targets. James White had 4 targets. Like this Patriots team was not great. It took Damian Harris having his first 100-yard game that really kept them in. And Cam played okay, especially through the ground, getting the touchdown 2-point conversion. And I'm just looking at Seattle going, okay, you're going from that weak offense to Russell Wilson, DK, Tyler, David, Greg, Will. They could get Chris Carson back. They may get Carlos Hyde back. I don't think it matters. DJ Davis, a running back out of the University of Miami, had a good game. And I just think the Seahawks should be able to go in there and win again. Because I don't think the Bills, I can't trust the Bills offense to move the ball on the Seahawks defense enough to win. Do I think that the Bills can run the ball? Sure. And will they get yards? Sure. I just don't know with Josh Allen. I don't think he could win a shootout with Russell in that environment of how that team is playing. They're healthier. They should get Jamal Adams back. They're going to get Carlos Dunlap, who they got in a trade for a 6th-round pick in center B.J. Finney. So that should help their pass rush. And I just think Seattle was on they're the second-best team in the NFC, in my opinion, through this year behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're the biggest challenge to the Buccaneers, in my opinion. Where the Bills, they're 6-2, but it's kind of like last year. I'm kind of unfortunately realizing they're beating a bunch of tomato cans, and they can't beat the better teams. Should be a great game. I would be a little surprised if Buffalo won, but not much. I do think the Bills are a solid football team all around. But if Josh Norman can't play, he hasn't been able to play due to a hamstring injury. I think that'll help Seattle a lot. And I just have to trust Seattle to win this game just based on their offense, getting some of the defensive pieces back, and just playing at a much higher and consistent rate compared to the Buffalo Bills. So that's why I like the Seattle Seahawks here, -2.5, and Seattle straight up. The next game, the Tennessee Titans over the Chicago Bears. Look, this is a game to where it's basically like Cincinnati, Tennessee last week, where when you really look at this game, this is one of the better offenses in the Titans compared to one of the better defenses in the Bears. And the big thing that swung my way to the Titans is two things. One, they're going to be at home. And the Titans just this year have played better at home. They've been in every single one of these games. And I also had to go with Ryan Tannehill over Nick Foles. Nick Foles, over the last few weeks, and the loss against the Rams, looked awful. Against the Saints, he had his moments where he had the big touchdown to Mooney. He also got the touchdown to Miller to get them within 3 points. Santos at the big 51-yard field goal. But there's just a part of me with the Bears that I can't trust. I put my faith in them against New Orleans. The biggest reason why I did that was they didn't have Michael Thomas, they didn't have Emmanuel Sanders, they ended up not even having Marcus Callaway, the third best receiver, or they didn't have 3 of their 4 receivers. Traquan was the primary weapon, and the Saints were just able to move the ball with Kamara and Taysom Hill as the primary, or Taysom Kamara and Jared as the primary weapons, and they won the game. And just watching the Bears offense, they really couldn't even run the ball. Montgomery had one massive hole, and it was great because if you watch the game, he literally looked stunned at a hole that opened wide ran for him because they have not been able to run the ball effectively at all. One of their offensive linemen went down. And I just looked at the Bears, and I just couldn't pick them to win this game against the Titans. However, the Titans, this is why you have to go +6. Again, the Titans have been in these close games all year. And the one thing the Titans can't do, or two things they can't do. One, they can't get a pass rush. They spent $12 million on Jadeveon and they spent over $20 million on Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley, 2 former first-round busts, and they haven't been able to do any pass rush for them at all. And they can't get off the field on third down. Since 1990, this has been the worst third down defense in terms of conversion in NFL history. Shout out to Keith Bailey, for giving me that stat, #KeithStat. So I do think that for the Bears, that's a massive opportunity to be able to move the ball. But I have to take the Titans here because I just feel like the Bears can't move the football and they can shut down the run. I think the Titans, they just got Desmond King, the former Los Angeles Chargers cornerback, for a 6th-round pick. He should be able to help their secondary a bit. I don't know the stats about Adoree Jackson, but I just have to take the Titans because I'm like, okay, you have the better running back, you have the better offensive line, you're at home, and Foles just really can't move the ball. And I just have to trust what I've seen from the Titans. The Titans have played more consistent and solid football compared to the Bears, where you could say the Bears have been more fortunate to win compared to maybe skill. Where the Titans, there's more skill than fortunate. And that's the best way I could describe that reasoning for pick there. So that's why I have the Tennessee Titans here to win straight up, but the Chicago Bears +6. The next game, the Indianapolis Colts over the Baltimore Ravens. This is a game to where the reason why I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts is twofold. Number one, the Baltimore Ravens lost the newly paid All-Pro left tackle Ronnie Stanley to an ankle injury. He will be out for the rest of the year. Number two, just today the Ravens found out that cornerback and former Pro Bowl and former Pro Bowl cornerback Marlon Humphrey, who we just also recently paid, got diagnosed with the coronavirus, and he will be at least out for this week's game and probably next week's game against the Patriots. That may not matter as much. But just looking at what the Ravens did against the Steelers defense, the Colts defense is better than the Steelers defense. And I know the point about, look, if you lost your left tackle, the Colts lost T.Y. Hilton, it's Phillip Rivers, not Big Ben, but I just have to tell you, I think the Colts defense is going to feast on the Ravens offensive line, especially about losing Phillips as well, one of our guards. So just that combined, I feel like Rivers, look, they have Hines and Taylor who aren't bad running backs. They're versatile running backs. Jack Doyle can make some plays. Michael Pittman now should have a bigger role. And I just feel like with the Colts, like that Colts offensive line is one of the best in the league. And if the Steelers offensive line, which is, again, one of the best, was able to hold down a pretty good pass rush, Matt Judon, Campbell, Yannick, they really couldn't do anything. And I feel like with the Colts, they're going to have enough weapons. They're going to be able to find some holes, or Lamar's going to give them opportunities. The Colts have produced a lot of turnovers this year. And I feel like with Lamar in these bigger games, he's very prone to do that. Do I think the Ravens have a chance to win this game? Sure. I think it's a little surprising. I guess it's surprising, that the Ravens were the favorite. I would have given Indy the favorite spot just because they knew Stanley was hurt anyway before this happened. But I'm going to take the Colts here just for the simple reason of no Humphrey, no Stanley, and I just don't think Lamar is going to be able to move the ball enough on this Colts defense. And I think the Colts will just do enough offensively. Their offensive line is going to protect, and they win this game at home in the battle of the current Baltimore team versus the original Baltimore team in the Colts. So that's why the Indianapolis Colts are +3 and the Indianapolis Colts straight up. The next game, the Kansas City Chiefs over the Carolina Panthers. This is a game to where when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, look, they dominated the Jets. It was a pretty simple reason, pretty dominant game by the Chiefs. To me, I see this game as a very interesting opportunity for the Panthers to see if they can measure up. Because I feel like with the Panthers, they're a 3-5 football team, but they play better than their record. Besides Tampa, where they lost by 14, they basically have been in one-score wins or one-score losses against some pretty, up and down teams. And that's why I took Carolina +12. Like, I think Teddy's going to play okay. They should get Christian McCaffrey back, which would be huge. And I just think with the Chiefs, they've been fortunate enough to where they haven't had to play a lot of great competition, especially with the Broncos and the Jets the last 2 weeks. Like, that really hasn't been impressive. Look, the Chiefs defense has been much more stellar than people thought. I think it's a third overall defense right now. But I just think the Panthers, they can hang in this game than people will give them credit for. I think losing to Atlanta was bad. But if you really have to look at the Carolina Panthers here, I will take them to win this game. Or I'm sorry, I'll take the Chiefs to win this game. But I think Carolina, they will hold on in a weird way, especially with McCaffrey probably coming back, Teddy playing effective, the Chiefs defense not being, the best secondary, but it's pretty good, and I think they hold on to win. I would be shocked if the Panthers won this game, because I think the Chiefs just been on a roll, and they are the best team in the AFC by far. But if you look at this game, Carolina's got an offense, and they played tough pretty much in every single game. I think 12 points is way too much for a Panther team that's improved, but that loss to Atlanta really is going to hurt them because I feel like they're going to have a losing record because they play Tampa Bay next weekend, where the Chiefs, they get to, I believe, go on their bye, which would be massive. And then they get to play the Raiders up to the game against Tampa. So I feel like, they get to, go on a nice run, get to 8-1, rest, beat up the Raiders, and then have that big time moment to play the Bucks. But give me the Chiefs here just because I feel like they're just clearly better. But the Panthers are just they're too scrappy to me to not take them plus 12. So that's like the Kansas City Chiefs here to win straight up. The Carolina Panthers plus 12. The next game, the Detroit Lions over the Minnesota Vikings. This is going to be one of those weird games to where I feel like for the Minnesota Vikings, everybody is going to give them tremendous praise, and they're going to jump on this bandwagon of, man, the Vikings played fantastic. Dalvin looked great. Like I mentioned before, Kirk Cousins didn't turn it over, even though he only threw for 160 yards. And the Vikings, look, they played well, and they got a huge fumble. Woonham got the fumble on Rodgers to win the game, and they were able to just control the clock. And you could look at what the Lions did. They gave up 30-plus points to the Colts, a pick six from Matt Stafford from Kenny Moore. And they also lost Kenny Golladay, who will likely be out or he's out at least this week due to a hip injury. But I just feel like with the Vikings and the Lions, we're kind of over and underhyping both teams respectively. I think we're overhyping the Vikings for this week, for this line. I know the Golladay injury is big, but the Vikings just aren't that good. The Vikings, look, they got fortunate. They were able to run the ball really well. And I know you could say, well, the Lions, look, they played the Packers and they got ran on pretty well when they played the Bears. Well, I guess they did a good job against the Bears defense, running the ball. And, the Jaguars did okay. And they just gave up a lot of yards to two receiving touchdowns to N'Keal Hines and Jonathan Taylor. So you could say, well, Dalvin Cook could do the same thing. Yes, but the Lions have played better over the last few weeks. And I feel like, again, the Golladay injury is big, but I don't think it's the most significant thing in the world for the Lions in terms of just playing this Vikings team. The Vikings this week lost two of their corners. One was to I think Holton was to a neck injury, and I forget the other one. I hope he's okay. But I just have to trust that the Lions here are going to bounce back, and I think the Vikings are going to come back down there for a little bit. I don't think the Vikings are as good as they showed. They just played one of their best games, and the Packers just couldn't stop the Vikings on third down and running through the ground. I think the Lions will do a better job. And I think if you're going to tell me right now which quarterback am I going to take for this year, I think Kirk Cousins is better than Matthew Stafford for a career. But for this year, give me Matt Stafford and the Lions to beat Cousins and the Vikings. Because I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little more effectively with AP with DeAndre and AP, even though I know Carry-On's basically went away and DeAndre, was kind of taking the primary role. And I think the Lions, Stafford will make it work without Golladay. He hasn't had Golladay before, and he was able to win a game or two or, be competitive. And I think that with Hawkinson, who's been playing okay, I like Marvin Jones. He stepped up. And even Marvin Hall, he had a big reception in the game late. I feel like the Lions are going to be able to do enough in this game to win and surprise the Vikings. A few years ago, they won in Minnesota. Dalvin Cook blew his ACL out, so this Lions team has done it before, most of these guys, and I think they're going to be able to do it again in a close but interesting division matchup for both squads, whose coaches are both on the hot seat in a big way. So that's why I like the Detroit Lions here, +4, and the Detroit Lions straight up. The next game, the Washington football team over the New York Giants. This is essentially, this battle was 2 weeks ago, or going on, 2-3 weeks ago, and we're basically in the same scenario we were. Both teams aren't great. Washington's only won 2 division games. Giants have only won 1 division game. I'm sorry, the Giants have won 1 division game. And I had to take Washington because I saw Washington just play their division game at home. They won both their games at home, 27-17 over Philadelphia, 25-3 over Dallas. And they've been more impressive. Kyle Allen played well. The Giants, they're not going to probably have Devontae Freeman this time. I don't think Kyle's going to play as bad. They're rested, where the Giants are going to play tonight against Tampa, and then they have the short week to go to Washington. But so that's why I'm going to take Washington to win. I'm going to take the Giants +3.5 because the Giants have been, over the last few weeks, been able to be in close games, or basically throughout the whole year. They had the 4-point loss to Chicago, the 8-point loss to the Rams, the 3-point loss to the Giants, the 1-point loss to the Washington football team, and the Eagles. So 3.5 in this type of game where we just saw this 2 or 3 weeks ago is not, that's a lot to really ask for this squad. And again, I think they were fortunate. I don't think Ron Rivera will make that dumb decision for 2 weeks in a row. They are down to go for 2, but who knows? It's Ron Rivera. But I'm going to take Washington because they're home, they're rested, and they just have played better. Where with the Giants, I'm going to take them plus 3.5 because since week 5, they were in a 3-point game and 2 1-point games, so 3.5 in the same scenario. But it's too much for me not to go with the Giants in a close divisional game. Huge game for both, but I feel like for Washington, they can take this loss. I don't think the Giants can. If the Giants have any hope of winning the NFC East, which they are still in, I don't think they can even lose the ball. But getting swept by the Washington football team in basically 2 out of 4 weeks, that pretty much ends the Giants' hope at all of beating the division. Washington can eat the loss. They still get to play Philadelphia, and they get to play Dallas again. So it's not as bad for them. But that's why I like the Washington football team here to win straight up. I'll give you the New York Giants plus 3.5. The next game, the Houston Texans over the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is simple. Jacksonville has announced that Gardner Minshew is not starting due to a thumb fracture that he suffered. So they're going to go with Mike Glennon or a guy named Luton, who's who was a rookie this year, who was a backup quarterback. I don't know his first name. Any Jaguars fan could please tell me in the comments what his first name is. But after I saw that, I had to take the Texans. They won this game just 2 weeks ago. The Texans just have looked better. And it's kind of the same thing where it's essentially both teams are bad, both defenses are bad. The offenses are okay, but you have to go with Deshaun and David and Texans here against a Jags team that after their first big game against Indy and the game against Tennessee, people thought the Jaguars had a little bit of momentum to surprise people, but over the last several weeks they just fell back and disintegrated back into the same old hapless Jags that the Cons are running. And I have to tell you, this is the thing. If the Cons only wish that football could be like professional wrestling, because at least they can run a professional wrestling company much better than their football or even Everton soccer. Sorry for any of those fans, but it's the truth. I think this game, could it be competitive? Sure. I was thinking about taking Jacksonville plus 6.5 because it's the unknown of Luton. You don't know what he can do, and I guess the other guy's Mike Glennon. So, but I'm like, okay, if it's Mike Glennon and Luton, or Jake Luton, I'm sorry, that's his name, Jake Luton. If it's Jake Luton or Mike Glennon, I would. If it was Luton that was going to get the start, I might have taken the Jags. But if Mike Glennon gets the job, I'll comfortably take Houston because we all know who Mike Glennon is. He is a scrub, and Deshaun and them should be able to easily win this game, even at home for the Jags. So that's why I like Houston here minus 6.5 and Houston straight up. The next game, the Las Vegas Raiders over the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a game where, again, this is stunning to me. How are the Chargers favored? Seriously. The Chargers may purely be better on talent, but the Chargers will continue to choke football games. I mentioned it before. They've choked 4 straight 14-point leads. And the Raiders have become the Titans to where, again, people are going to go, well, Herbert's been playing phenomenal. The Raiders looked horrible. Derek Carr only threw for 12 yards. The offense only could get 1 score. That was questionable with Hunter Renfrow. They were playing the Browns without Odell Beckham and only going up 16 points. So it was a rainstorm, and they were able to play effectively. The Chargers, they can get into any spot. But seriously, after watching the Chargers all year long, the Chargers should never feel comfortable. Seriously. They're like the Falcons in that way. They should never feel comfortable with a lead at any point in the football game except when it hits zeros. If they're leading when the clock hits 0, they should be good. But if they're leading at any point by any margin, they should feel uncomfortable. Where with the Raiders, again, they have gotten 3 quality wins and an okay win against Carolina, and the 3 losses haven't been bad except against New England. And I believe the Raiders swept the Chargers last year, and Gruden's had a good history against this team, and it's just like, well, as long as Anthony Lynn's there, I can't take the Chargers. I thought after beating the Jags and looking at how bad Denver was, I thought the Chargers could go in there and win. Obviously, I was wrong, and the Raiders, are a better team than the Broncos by every stretch, and the Raiders just seem to be playing better football. And I'm gonna between the Vegas Raiders, who play inconsistent but more solid and dependable football, or the choking team that can't even, they're so bad at choking, they would give themselves the Heimlich and actually choke themselves even more with the Heimlich maneuver. That's how bad they are at choking. I'm going to take the Raiders here. Do I think the Chargers can win this game? Yes. Do I think the Chargers will have a lead in this game? Yes. But at the end of the day, I have to take the team that doesn't choke, and that's the Raiders. So that's why I have the Las Vegas Raiders here, plus 1.5, and the Las Vegas Raiders straight up. The next game, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Dallas Cowboys. This is a game to where the Dallas Cowboys have scored a grand total since Dak Prescott got injured against the Giants. They have scored a grand total of 22 points in the last 3 games. That is an average of 7. They have scored 1 touchdown a game over the last 3 games. That is downright putrid. And they have led the league in turnovers. Even though it was surprising, they entered the game against the Eagles with 3 turnovers for the whole year. They got 3+ turnovers on the Eagles throughout the game. So that was just kind of stunning, seeing the Cowboys defense play that well. Maybe that gives them a little bit of hope for the division, but this isn't the division. This is the best team in the NFL right now in the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers' run defense got shredded, but when they needed to, they made some big plays. Spillane with the first throw of the game from Lamar got the pick 6, which was massive. Minka made a big play in the end of Willie Snead to win the game for the Steelers. I think the Steelers, they're playing up against a much more maligned offensive line. The secondary for the Cowboys has been routinely shredded by every receiving corps. It could be DK Metcalf, it could be Odell Beckham, it could be Terry McLaurin, it could be Robert Woods, it could be, Julio Jones, it could be Calvin Ridley. Every receiver has had fun going up and down the field in the Cowboys. So Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Eric Ebron, Juju, they should have phenomenal games or a great field day against this horrible Cowboys defense. The last time these two teams played, it was an overtime game. I believe the Dak won, which was entertaining. Also, there were some questionable 2-point conversions. These two teams are completely different right now. I'm going to take the 9.5 here because I even think with the Andy Dalton, who should be back, that's not going to matter. Andy Dalton was in a game against Washington and Arizona. They lost by 28 and 22 respectively, so 9.5 is way too easy to lay down against this horrible Cowboy team. So congrats for Pittsburgh, to get to 8-0, the best start since 1979. They have been on, one of the best rolls. And I think for the Steelers, the best thing that's going to happen is if the Bucs lose, the Bucs beat the Chiefs, the Steelers should then likely be able to cruise to a number 1 seed in the AFC, in my opinion, for the year. Because the Steelers really only have 3 tough games left, and I would say 2 genuine interesting games. They have to play the Ravens in Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving night. Then they have to play Buffalo, and they have to play Indy. I think they have to go to Buffalo, and they have to play Indy at home. Those are the only 2 games that are going to be complicated and tough left for the Steelers. And I think they should win all those, but I think the one that they could lose could be Buffalo on the road. But we shall see. But this game against Dallas shouldn't even be a contest. It's just going to be another tough game for Dallas. And after the dogfights they've been in with 2 of the best teams in the AFC, they get a nice, comfortable game against the Cowboy team that you couldn't even call a trap game. That's how bad they are. The Cowboys are only going to trap themselves in Jerry's world for just another 8 games, for the rest of the year. So that's why the Pittsburgh Steelers are minus 9.5 and Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, the Arizona Cardinals over the Miami Dolphins. This is a game to where I like the Dolphins, and they have played well, and they have played. I think they also said they have the number 1 third down defense, and I thought the Dolphins just overall stunned and played a flawless game pretty much in all phases. But I just couldn't trust it. I feel like with the Cardinals, Kyler is not going to play as bad as Jared Goff. Kyler Murray, I think, has been a bit underlooked, or phrase it. Kyler Murray, people want to forget this apparently, but do people forget that just 2 weeks ago against the Cowboys defense, He only completed 9 passes. Just putting that out there for everybody, just to realize that. For me, like when I look at that, I'm just telling you that for him, like he's a little bit, I think, a little bit overhyped for this year than what people want to say. But I'll be the one to say it because remember, this is a guy that against the Carolina Panthers completed 77% of his passes for 133 yards. Against the Lions, the immortal Lions, he threw 3 interceptions, and just like I said 2 weeks ago, he only completed 9 passes. So, like, Kyler, I think he can play kind of around the Jared Goff level that I think people don't want to admit. I just don't think he's going to turn it over. I don't think he's going to have a 4 turnover game. He's not more prone to that. He did have the 3 interception game against the Lions, but I don't think he's going to do that against the Dolphins. And I just think that's going to be the difference. I feel like with the Cardinals defense, with the way it's going, Vance Joseph has done a phenomenal job. He's held opponents under 21 points, at least, in 5 of their wins, they have been held under 20 points, except Seattle, which was Russell Wilson, so you really can't blame him for that. But I think the Cardinals defense will do a good enough job. I just think that they're going to be able to win. I think that they're going to be rested, even though they're not going to have Kenyon Drake, who had a high ankle sprain. He got put on the IR, so he will at least be out against the Dolphins and the Bills, and he could be able to come back against Seattle. And I think Chase Edmonds can do enough to carry the load. But I just feel like with the Cardinals, they're not going to have special teams. They're not going to have defensive opportunities like they did against the Rams, where Tua can just relax. I think Tua in this spot, thankfully they don't have Chandler Jones playing due to his bicep. So it's not going to be as bad of a pass rush. But Marcus Golden coming in there from a trade from the Giants is huge. And I just look at the Cardinals as just clearly the better football team. And after how solid and comfortable the first game was against the Rams, besides the first play where he got rocked by Leonard Floyd, I think that the Cardinals just have enough offensive firepower. They're more disciplined and just more effective and smarter with their decisions to not make mistakes and win this game at home that they need to keep pace with the Seahawks in the NFC West. Should be an interesting game, and I'm going to give Miami their due because you can't play the way they have since Week 4 against San Francisco, the Jets, and then against the Rams, and not be given 5 or 4.5 points and not get their trust that they can hang around. So I'm going to give them their due there, especially with Tua still being new. The Cardinals don't have much film, and they really didn't gain any film playing against the Rams. So I'll give the Dolphins their due and take them with the points, but give me the Cardinals straight up. They just look better. They're going to be on a bye, and I just feel like this is a much tougher test due to the discipline and less errors that the Cardinals will make, I believe, compared to the Dolphins. Sounds like the Arizona Cardinals are straight up, but the Miami Dolphins plus 4.5. The next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the New Orleans Saints. I'm taking Tampa Bay here because this is the old home theory. When in Week 1, when the Saints hosted the Bucs, I took the Saints here to win this football game because they were at home. And throughout the year, up to this point, through 8 games, both teams have been, decent. They've had some lows. Saints, of course, lost to the Raiders, in a tough one. Lost to the Packers in a 7-point game, and they've won 4 straight games after that. And they were 0-2 entering the year without Michael Thomas. Now they've won, now they're 500, and they've won 4 straight without him. But the thing with the Saints is I'm not sold. Like, it's been up and down. Kamara's been fantastic, but that defense has been shredded. It's had some really bad big plays and bad moments. They almost let the Lions come all the way back. The Panthers were just a showy, sly, half an inch away from going into overtime. The Chargers, they were down by 17. And I know it's about all Michael Thomas, even with Sanders not there, and that should be huge. But I've looked at the Bucs and they've said, okay, they looked okay, or they didn't look great against Carolina, but they played really well against Denver. Brady had a fantastic game against the Chargers. They both, benefited from choke jobs from the Chargers. And but then after you looked at the Bears game, which was tough, they played the Raiders and the Packers really well and blew them out decisively. And I just think, again, you're going to get Antonio Brown this game. Chris Godwin could be back to play. I think the Bucs defense has been on a much better roll. You have had Steve McClendon in there playing well, and I just think the Bucs at home, they've hit their stride, and I have to take them over a Saints team that, even though getting Thomas and Sanders back will be huge, and that could be, the reason why this game is going to be so close. I just have to take the Bucs defense. They've been better at, they've been better at home. They've been motivated for this game, and I just think with Drew, I think Tom wins this one because he remembers how bad he played. I don't think he's going to make the same mistakes. And I think Antonio Brown is just too big of a factor as their as their second or third receiver that the Saints really can't match with on New Orleans with Thomas and Sanders back, because Traquan or Callaway are not comparable to Godwin or AB in any way they think about it. Should be a great game. I wouldn't be surprised if New Orleans won, but kind of with the old theory, take the home team in this one in a close back-to-back game. I took New Orleans the first time. Worked out. I'm going to take Tampa this time. Hopefully the same thing. And 4 points, I think this is going to be a 7-point game. And I just feel like, again, the Bucs are going to be motivated. And I could definitely see not as bad a Green Bay game, but definitely more than 7. So that's why I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are -4 and Tampa Bay straight up. And finally, the Patriots are over the Jets. This is one where if the Bills were going to blow out the Patriots, I seriously was going to consider maybe taking the Jets, maybe. But the Patriots played well enough. They played Buffalo tough. Cam had, the one rushing touchdown and 2-point conversion. And the Jets, through the first half, you thought, they were moving the ball. They got into Chiefs territory, but they kicked field goals. And I just, Stan Darnold only threw for 130 yards. Frank Gore only ran for 30 yards. And the Jets really haven't beat the Patriots that often at all. Even now, they just traded their linebacker, A.B. Williamson, for a 5th-round pick to Pittsburgh. So they're, they traded away McClendon. They're trying to sell everything. They let Le'Veon go. And the Jets, every game this year, I believe, let me see. So it's a 7-point spread. The Jets have lost every game this year by, let's see right here in a second. They have lost every game this year. There we go. They have lost every game this year by 10. So it's 10, 18, 29, 8, or 9, 20, 24, 8, and 26. So they've lost every game by 7 points. And so with that notion being said, I'm going to take the Patriots here -7. I actually was amazed that they covered 19.5 because the way it was going, it was 21-9, and I was a bit nervous. Thankfully, the Jets offense couldn't do anything in the second half, and the Chiefs got to a 26-point win to cover the 19 by a score. So going back to 7, even with Cam and even with the lack of weapons he has, they should just be able to run the ball effectively. Just with Cam and Damian, just through themselves. Gilmore hopefully will be back, and they can just shut down the limited or what offense there is with the Jets, which is a 37-year-old running back and bust of a 3rd overall pick in Darnold. And I just think, again, the Pats, it's not going to really help move the needle in confidence because right now everybody should beat the Jets to get them to 0-16. I just feel like with the Pats, this is just kind of fairly easy because at least I've seen the Pats play. They've had really bad moments, San Francisco, Denver, but seeing their hope against Buffalo and Seattle and beating Vegas and beating Miami, that's more than what the Jets could say because the Jets have essentially been non-competitive except for 2 games to one where they lost to a 4th-string quarterback and they lost to Josh Allen off a field goal game. It was a Mike Tomlin 2016 AFC Divisional Round special for the Bills there in Week 7 last week, or 2 weeks ago, with the 6 field goals to the team that scored a touchdown game. So that's why I like the New England Patriots are -7 and New England straight up. So those are my thoughts and comments for all the games this week. Like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Please let me know if you have any questions or send any comments. I love hearing from all the people that watch these videos and hear my predictions. Also, please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page, where you can see great people like Beetle Bailey, Bridgewater's Finest, Red Zone Rosano. You have Andrew Warren. You have Half Moon's Picks. Also, I wanted to shout out Fire and Brim. They're another great YouTube duo. I will put their channel link in the description. But please check out their predictions. They're a great duo. Saw them yesterday. Please check them out. Also check out Sports Fan Entertainment, the MJ Take on Twitter. Please check him out. And that's it. So until next week for my Week 10 predictions, this is Matt the Fanatic signing off. And everyone, please social distance, wash your hands frequently, and wear a mask. And until next time, this is Matt the Fanatic signing off. So long.